but I've been in the Philippines for the last 43 years. So I ended up marrying her. Fiancé visas, spouse visas, 40% of those girls will fail. This is a shocking experience for these guys.
Age gap. Do you think that's still acceptable in Filipino culture? Please tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Mike Tessitore, and I'm actually from Montana, raised in Montana, but I've been in the Philippines for the last 43 years.
43 years? What kept you here for so long?
Well, it's a long story, but many years ago I was in a U.S. Army hospital in Frankfurt, Germany, and I had 3 operations at that time, and I had a Filipino nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. I was flat in love with her. I never touched her. I never held her hand. I never kissed her. Nothing like that. But we were friends.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, she said, "Oh, you should come visit us in the Philippines sometime," and I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Well, I got off the plane in Manila, and you go outside, and there's a fence with maybe 300 people behind it holding signs where the people are waiting for it. I didn't see my name. I said, "Oh, good. I'm going home."
Going home, buddy.
And this little gal walks out of the crowd, and she walks up and she says, "Are you Mike?" I said, "Yeah." "I'm Florence." "Hi, Florence." Well, it was all over then. I mean, I was washed up.
That's what kept you here for over 40 years.
Yeah. So I ended up marrying her in Angeles City. A municipal judge in Angeles City married us. And he worked for the U.S. Air Force and for the city. He was a Filipino judge, though. And he says, "Well, you need to do immigration paperwork." I said, "What do you mean immigration paperwork?"
No.
"She's going to go with me." "No, she can't go with you." "Oh, you got to be kidding me." "No, you got to do the paperwork." He says, "For $500, I'll do the paperwork for you." Okay. So I gave him the money, and I go to, I got two days left. So Florence and her brother, he has a jeepney. They took me to the airport in Manila, and they dropped me off.
Mm-hmm.
And before I got out of the jeepney, I took out my wallet, and I took all my money out, and I gave it to her. I said, "You're going to need this." She said, "What about you?" I said, "Well, I got about $2 worth of quarters in case I need to make some phone calls."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I needed. You know how on an airplane they're going to feed you,
Of course, yeah.
bathroom, everything. So she left, he left, and in those days they didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
They did, but they were the brick and nobody carried one. But anyway, so, wow, she leaves. I go to get on my Northwest Airlines flight, and I get in line, and they say, "Well, guess what? You didn't call 3 days in advance and reconfirm your flight, so your seat's been sold.
Wow.
You can't go on this flight." Now here I am at the airport with $2 worth of quarters. I can't get a hold of Florence. I can't get a hold of anybody. So I talked to him and I said, "Well, there's another flight, Northwest flight, going out in 4 hours." "Okay, great." So they booked me on it. Kind of an emergency thing.
Yeah.
And as I was standing in line to get on that flight, they said, "You didn't pay your terminal fee. Your terminal fee is, I forget what it amounted to, about $10.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, that's okay. I got a ticket. I'm going." "No, you're not."
Yeah.
I said, "I gotta go." "You can't. I don't have any money."
Yeah.
"That's too bad. You stay." Well, the supervisor came out. I'm making a big ruckus here. And she says, "What's the problem?" I said, "I don't have enough money to pay for this terminal fee." And it's, I gave it all to my wife. And she said, "Well," she said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. have you got a credit card? I said, yeah. So anyway, she said, if you got a credit card, we don't take credit cards, but you can go in the duty-free shop and buy a bottle of Johnny Walker, bring it over here and put it in this desk drawer. It's my office.
Yeah.
And I'll buy your terminal fee.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Nice.
I got on a plane, I came back to the United States, waited for a couple of months for the paperwork to go through, and
Yeah.
the paperwork failed. The judge had used all kinds of forged documents, inaccurate information, nothing was good. So I said, well, I can't use him, but I know the people at immigration in Helena. The office manager was a friend of mine. So I went over to see her, and she said, well, let me help you. So she sat down with all the forms with me, and we filled out all the forms. And I said, how's that look? She said, that's perfect. Just send it.
Yeah.
We sent it. It failed. So then I said, well, Jesus, what do I do now? So I drove up to Coots, which is on the Canadian border, Alberta and Montana. And they got an immigration station there, and I talked to those guys, and they helped me fill out
Yeah.
the forms again.
Wow.
And we sent them in, and by God, they failed too.
It failed again for the third time.
3 goddamn times. Well, I'm getting tired of this. I said, well, I think maybe we better go on the honor system. They got the honor, I'm going to have the system.
Yeah.
So I sat down, I really studied this stuff, and because I learned from the mistakes, of course, also, I did it myself, and I got it right, and it passed, and she
Nice.
came. At this point, everybody in the immigration office knew who I was. All the people who were in the lobby knew who I was. Everybody knew what I was doing. And finally, the whole world swooped down on me. They all wanted me to help them do their paperwork.
Okay.
So at that time, I started doing immigration paperwork for these folks. Not as a business, but just as to help people out,
Everybody at immigration knew you, so you start helping people because you knew the process.
Yeah. And so after some time doing this, we got in the actual immigration business, which we do to this present day. And for the last 40 years, that's what I've done is immigration. That's how I support myself in the Philippines and our family. And it's been very rewarding, and it's it gives a good feeling when you bring a family together.
Of course. Yeah.
A guy and his wife, a guy and his girlfriend that wants to get married. It's a good feeling, and
Yeah.
you feel that you've done something good, and to get paid for it. Well, that helps too.
Of course. You know what they say, if you love what you do, right, it doesn't feel like work, right? So.
Oh, I love what I do. I really do. I just did another one 5 minutes ago, by the way.
Okay, nice.
And it's a very rewarding experience because what you're doing is you're taking these guys that come over here that are been beat up, beat to death, hammered by these American women.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat the shit out of these guys.
Yeah.
They treat them like dogs, and they come over here and they find some girl that's feminine. She acts like a girl. My goodness. And she's friendly, and she knows what girls are supposed to do, and she takes care of you. My God, this is a shocking experience for these guys.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful, I mean, it's how can you beat a deal like that? So
how do you help most people, men? What kind of stuff do you help people with? Like, can you give us
Well,
a quick overview of what you do?
basically, what we do over the years, we've expanded, but basically what we do is we do fiancé visas, spouse visas, alien relative petitions, an adjustment of status for the United States. We do spouse and fiancé visas for Australia and we do visas for the UK, and we do some visas for Canada.
Oh, that's awesome. So basically, any guy that wants to be with his Filipino partner, you can help them get here properly.
Yeah.
And hopefully, they don't go through the same 3-time rejection as you did 40 years ago, right? So.
Well, the whole thing is the process is not made to be a do-it-yourself process. Those forms the government gives you, oh, they're just a few forms.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, but you put one letter in the wrong place and you're screwed.
Yeah.
And
It's the time, I think, as well. You lose so much time waiting for basically just to get rejected. You don't know immediately if you made a mistake, right? So.
well, yeah, and you do it and they fail and it hurts,
Yeah.
But the thing is, the reason we're so successful is because we do it in a dual fashion, if you will. We don't have this girl in the Philippines come walking into our office to talk to some fat, ugly American.
Yeah.
She comes in and she talks to someone who speaks her language, who understands her,
Okay.
who's a girl. Huh? That makes a big deal for those gals. And when she leaves the office, she has a friend for life,
Yeah.
and they become very close. I mean, always, all of our customers are very close to the ladies in the office. And because that lady knows that when I go home, I don't have to ask my auntie what to do, or some
Yeah.
friend of mine is going to give me bad advice. I can call Mom M or Mom Nympha, and they'll tell me what to do exactly correctly the first time. And they're there from 10 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
They use WhatsApp, they use Messenger, they use Zoom, they use email. We got 2 cell phones, 5 long distance lines,
Wow. So
and
they're never out of touch, basically. Whoever needs you, you're always going to be there trying to help them.
they're always there to answer the questions, and they know about their petition, what's going on with it exactly at that time.
Yeah.
They know exactly what's going on with it during the whole process. And boy, that makes that girl feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Then when it comes time for her to go to the embassy for the various interviews, which there's 3 interviews. There's the medical, which is actually, they listen to their heart and all that stuff, but they also interview them, ask them questions,
Yeah.
and they need to be prepared for that. And then the other interview is the embassy interview, the dreaded embassy interview. When your girl goes into that interview, she's sitting there in a room with 400 other girls doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And 40% of those girls will fail
Wow.
because they weren't prepared. They don't have the right documents.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do. Our girl goes in there and she's very confident. When she goes into that guy to get the interview, or gal, she's in there less than 6 minutes.
Wow.
And they get approved every time because they know how to answer the questions, they know what the questions might be, they know how to interact with embassy personnel. We train them for this. We don't teach them how to lie. We're not trying to teach them to be evasive, to
Yeah.
skip the question, but we're trying to teach them to tell the truth and make it understandable so that they deal with somebody that understands them.
And of course, more than anything, you have experience, decades of experience of exactly what they're looking for, what's going on, and how to handle
Yeah.
this. Why do you think so many men are interested in Filipino women? You kind of mentioned it a couple of times, but I want your answer right now. Why do you think still, to this day, 2025, so many men are interested in Filipino women?
Well, I'm probably going to get my foot in my mouth here, but have you seen these American women walking up and down here?
Not too many, but the ones that I've seen.
But they're here,
Yeah.
and they're about as sexy as a pair of balls. I mean, they're just bad attitude.
Yeah.
And, they're more interested in being the boss,
Very.
And now, in the Philippines, of course, when you ask who's the boss, well, the girl always says, my dad. The man's always the boss. Well, That's a big lie.
Yeah.
They didn't tell you the truth there. The mother is always the boss, and the wife is always the boss. As long as you do what she tells you, you're the boss, you know? And they make you feel like the boss.
Yeah.
They don't make you feel like, you're an idiot or something.
Mhm.
They make you feel like you made the
You
decision.
feel
that
seen
you're
and
the
valued
boss.
here, I feel
They're
like. Yeah.
polite beyond all comprehension and caring. And I mean, it's wonderful. I've been married to my wife for 29 years now. We're going on 30. And she takes care of me like a baby. I'm 83 years old, and she's 62. And she takes care of me like a baby. I mean,
And that's the other thing I kind of want to ask, age gap. Do you think that's still acceptable in Filipino culture with a large age gap relationship? Is that still okay here to have a guy much older than a woman that's younger?
oh, the age gap. Well, you ask any one of those girls that is in an age gap situation like that,
Yeah.
and they will tell you age doesn't matter as long as we're compatible.
Okay.
Now, I married a eminent psychiatrist from the University of California. I can't think of his name, but he was 70 some years old. He married a 19-year-old girl over here.
Wow.
And we figured she was just a terrible girl to even think about marrying this old guy and blah, 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 blah. Well, come to find out, every year they send us pictures of themselves together. They were so happy and they're so grateful and they're so happy for what we did for them. And uh, age makes no difference really as far as I can see. And as long as they're compatible, there's some of the things I can see that could be wrong with that is the guy gets where he can't get it up.
But they got medicine for that these days, right? I'm sure you can take some
Oh, they
pills.
got shots that'll.
Stuff I don't even know about. But maybe,
You didn't know about those shots?
I don't know what shots. No.
And you know that I've never had the embassy actually question the age difference.
That is an excellent point. I never even thought of that, but I'm glad you mentioned that.
I've never had them question it. They just do it. When I married this wife, I had been to get legal capacity to marry from John Domingo. He was the U.S. consulate here in Cebu. And it was the third time I'd been in to see him, and he says, well, you've done this so many times, how do you know this is the right one?
Yeah.
And I said, well, John, are you married? He said, of course. I said, how do you know she was the right one? Okay.
He gave you his signature, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. It's always been nice since last year. A lot of people have been tuning into your video. You have a lot of experience, and I'll be sure to include your immigration office information if somebody wants to go ahead and contact you for any services.
Okay. Yeah, you're certainly welcome, and I enjoyed that. So.
Thank you. Leave your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think of Mike's experience in the Philippines. And if you have any kind of immigration service that you need, I highly recommend using Ovis because he's been doing it for decades and there's certain things you just want to leave to the professionals. He's got a great track record, so don't leave any of that to fate. Contact him right now. Use the code ALEX to get yourself 10% off. Let him know Alex sent you. Just say Alex and he'll give you guys 10% off. And if you see a Vegas number call you back, that's not some scam. That's Mike getting back to you because even in the middle of the night, he'll give you a call to make sure that you're well on your way to meet the love of your life. So contact him regarding any of that stuff. He's been doing it for so long. I think he's become like an expert. You can do it in his sleep. So don't leave any of that stuff to fate because you want to get here as soon as you can. Even one small error on your application can set you back months or even a year. So don't leave that to chance. Contact him now. I left a link to his website, his phone number, all that stuff in the comment section and in the description. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.